Jake Morrison stood at the large window of Haven's rest station, watching the stars. His hands were shaking. In 2 hours he would marry an alien princess. The thought still seemed crazy to him. The space station floated between human and Zilani space. It was supposed to be neutral ground, but Jake could feel the tension everywhere. Human soldiers walked past Zilani warriors in the hallways. Both sides kept their hands near their weapons. "You don't have to do this," Admiral Kate Sullivan said behind him. Jake turned to face her. The Admiral was a tough woman who had fought in 3 border wars. Her gray hair was pulled back tight and her uniform was perfect. "Yes, I do," Jake said. "If I don't marry her, we go to war." "Millions of people will die," Kate frowned. "The Zilani think we're weak. They think this marriage proves it. Maybe we should show them how wrong they are." Jake shook his head. "Fighting won't solve anything. We've been shooting at each other for 20 years. Where has it gotten us?" The first contact with the Zilani had gone badly. A human exploration ship had accidentally damaged a Zilani holy site. The aliens had attacked without warning. Since then, both sides had been building up their fleets and waiting for someone to make the first move. "Sir," a young officer interrupted. "Princess Xylaveth has arrived." Jake's stomach twisted. He had only seen pictures of her. The Zilani were tall and thin with blue-gray skin. Their eyes were large and dark. They looked almost human, but different enough to make most people uncomfortable. Jake walked to the docking bay. A group of Zilani had gathered around their ship. They wore long robes in bright colors. Their ship was beautiful, covered in patterns that seemed to move in the light. Princess Xylaveth stepped out of the ship. She was taller than Jake expected, maybe 6.5 feet. Her skin was the color of a storm cloud, and her black hair fell to her shoulders. She wore a simple white robe with silver threading. Their eyes met across the docking bay. Jake felt something strange. She looked scared too. Counselor Threnkar, the Zilani military advisor, walked beside the princess. He was older, with scars across his face. His dark eyes studied Jake like he was looking at an enemy. "So this is the human," Threnkar said in accented English. "He looks weak." "Peace, Threnkar," Princess Xylaveth said. Her voice was soft but firm. "We are here to stop a war, not start one." Jake stepped forward and bowed the way his cultural advisor had taught him. "Your Highness." "I am honored to meet you." Princess Xylaveth looked surprised. She returned the bow in the human style. "The honor is mine, Jake Morrison." Admiral Kate led them to the conference room where the ceremony would take place. Representatives from both sides sat at a long table. The humans wore their dress uniforms. The Zilani wore ceremonial robes. Ben Carter, Jake's best friend, sat with the human group. He had tried to talk Jake out of this for weeks. "This is crazy, man," he had said. "You're marrying someone you've never met to stop a war that might not even happen." But Jake knew the war would happen. The border incidents were getting worse. Last month, a Zilani patrol had destroyed a human mining station. The humans had responded by attacking a Zilani supply convoy. Each side blamed the other for starting it. "Before we begin," Princess Xylaveth said, "I want to say something." She stood up, and everyone got quiet. "I know this marriage seems strange to both our peoples. We are doing this to prevent bloodshed, but I want it to be more than just politics." She looked at Jake. "I have studied human culture. You value choice and freedom. I want us to choose this together, not just accept it because we have to." Jake felt a warm feeling in his chest. "I agree, Your Highness. We may not know each other yet, but we can try to build something real." Threnkar made a noise of disgust. "Humans and their feelings. This is about survival, not love." "Maybe those things don't have to be separate," Jake said quietly. The ceremony was a mix of both cultures. Jake spoke vows in broken Zilani that he had learned in just 3 days. Princess Xylaveth promised to honor human customs in perfect English. When they joined hands, her skin felt warm and surprisingly soft. After they exchanged rings, there was a feast. Jake tried Zilani food for the first time. Some of it was delicious, some made him want to throw up. Princess Xylaveth laughed when she saw his face after tasting something that looked like purple jelly. "It's an acquired taste," she said. "Even some Zilani don't like it. What is it?" Jake asked. "Fermented sea plants from our home world. It's supposed to bring good luck." Jake took another bite and tried not to make a face. "Well, we need all the luck we can get." As the evening went on, Jake noticed something strange. Every time someone explained human technology or customs to the Zilani, they seemed surprised. It was like they expected humans to be more primitive. During a break in the celebrations, Princess Xylaveth pulled Jake aside. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course, and why did you volunteer for this?" "You could have said no." Jake thought for a moment. "Because someone had to. And maybe because I think we're more alike than different." Princess Xylaveth studied his face. "You learned basic Zilani in 3 days. Our intelligence said humans were slow learners." "Your intelligence was wrong about a lot of things," Jake said. Something changed in her expression. "What do you mean?" "I mean, maybe both our peoples have been lying to each other. Maybe we're both stronger than we pretend to be." Princess Xylaveth was quiet for a long time. Then she smiled. It was the first real smile Jake had seen from her all day. "This marriage might be more interesting than I thought," she said. As the celebration ended, Jake realized that marrying an alien princess might be the least crazy thing he would do in the coming months. Something big was about to happen. He could feel it in the way the Zilani watched the humans, and in the way Princess Xylaveth looked at him like she was trying to solve a puzzle. The war they were trying to prevent might be nothing compared to what was coming. 3 weeks after the wedding, Jake stood in the main computer center of Nethys Prime, the Zilani capital world. Rows of blue lights blinked in patterns he was starting to understand. The Zilani engineers watched him with confusion and worry. "That should not be possible," Engineer Veth Loran said for the 3rd time that morning. "You've been here only 2 weeks. It takes our students years to understand these systems." Jake's fingers moved across the light panels. The Zilani didn't use keyboards or screens like humans. Their computers responded to touch and thought patterns. Jake had figured out how to use them faster than anyone expected. "Maybe human and Zilani brains work more alike than you thought," Jake said, solving another complex equation in minutes instead of hours. Princess Xylaveth watched from the corner of the room. She had been quiet since they arrived on her home world. Jake could tell something was bothering her. Later that evening, they sat in the palace gardens. Strange alien flowers glowed softly in the dark. The 2 moons of Nethys Prime cast silver light on everything. "You're upset about something," Jake said. Xylaveth picked at the grass beside her. "Before you came here, I studied human culture with Amy Walsh, your cultural advisor. She told me humans value individual choice above everything else. That's true. But you chose to marry me for the good of both our peoples. You put the group before yourself." "That's very Zilani of you," Jake thought about this. "Maybe the difference between our peoples isn't as big as everyone thinks." "That's what worries me," Xylaveth said. "If we're so similar, why have we been fighting for 20 years? The next day, they traveled to Earth's diplomatic colony on New Geneva. Jake wanted to show Xylaveth human culture, just like she had shown him hers. Ben Carter met them at the spaceport. He had known Jake since college and wasn't trying to hide his concerns about the marriage. "You look different," Ben said as they walked through the busy human settlement. "How?" "More confident. Like you've figured something out." Amy Walsh joined them for dinner. She was a small woman with red hair who specialized in alien cultures. She had been helping Xylaveth understand human customs. "Princess," Amy said, "you seem troubled. Is everything all right?" Xylaveth put down her fork. Human food was still strange to her, but she was learning to like it. "Can I ask you something?" "When we first studied humans, our intelligence report said you were a young species, not very advanced. But everything I've seen here suggests otherwise." Amy and Ben exchanged looks. "What kind of things?" Amy asked carefully. "Jake learned our computer systems in days, not years. Your technology is different from ours, but not simpler. And your people adapt to new situations faster than we expected." Jake felt a strange tension in the room. "Amy, what did you tell the Zilani about us during the peace talks?" Amy looked uncomfortable. "We emphasized our diplomatic nature, our desire for peace." "What didn't you tell them?" Ben answered instead. "Jake, you know the rules. First contact protocols exist for a reason." "What rules?" Xylaveth asked. Jake stared at his best friend. "Ben, what aren't you telling me?" That night, Jake couldn't sleep. He found Xylaveth on the balcony of their guest quarters looking up at Earth's moon. "My grandmother asked to speak with me," she said without turning around. "Elder Zeth Miran? What did she say?"
"She told me something interesting."
"She was part of the first Zilani expedition that made contact with humans 20 years ago." Jake moved to stand beside her. "I thought that contact went badly because of an accident." "That's what both our governments told everyone. But my grandmother says it was more complicated. Xylaveth finally looked at him. She says the human ship that damaged our holy site shouldn't have been able to escape our attack fleet. But it did. Maybe they got lucky. Maybe. Or maybe humans are much better at fighting than they pretend to be. Jake felt cold despite the warm night air. What are you saying? I'm saying both our peoples have been lying during these peace talks. We told you we were stronger than we really are. And you told us you were weaker than you really are. The next morning, Jake confronted Amy Walsh. I want to know what really happened during first contact. Amy sighed. Jake, you're a diplomat, not military. There are things you don't need to know. I need to know now. My wife thinks we've been lying to her people. We have been lying to them, Ben said quietly. Amy shot him an angry look, but he continued. Jake, you were chosen for this mission for more than just your diplomatic skills. What do you mean? Amy pulled out a secure tablet and showed Jake a file. His own face looked back at him, but the information was classified far above his security level. You have an unusual psychological profile, Amy said. High adaptability, extreme problem-solving skills, and something our tests call impossible persistence. That doesn't mean anything. It means you don't give up even when logic says you should. It means you find solutions that shouldn't exist. And it means you were the perfect choice to marry a Zalani princess because you would find a way to make it work. Jake felt angry. So this whole marriage was planned? You manipulated both of us? Not manipulated, Ben said. But we hoped you would do exactly what you're doing. Learning their technology, understanding their culture, becoming a bridge between our peoples. That evening, Jake told Xylaveth everything. She listened without interrupting, so we were both chosen for political reasons, she said when he finished. It looks that way. But that doesn't change how I feel. About you, she said quietly. Jake looked at her in surprise. How do you feel about me? Like I want this marriage to be real. Not just politics, she took his hand. Do you feel the same way? Jake squeezed her hand. Yes. But I also feel like both our governments are hiding bigger secrets. My grandmother wants to meet with you tomorrow. Alone. Why? Because she thinks a war is coming whether we want it or not. And she thinks humans are the key to surviving it. The next day, Jake met Elder Zeth Moran in her private chambers. She was very old, even for a Zalani, with silver hair and eyes that seemed to see everything. Sit, young human, she said in perfect English. We have much to discuss. Xylaveth says you know secrets about first contact. I know many secrets. But the most important one is this. During that first battle 20 years ago, I scanned the human ship as it escaped. The readings made no sense. What kind of readings? The ship's hull should have been destroyed by our weapons. The crew should have been killed by the acceleration forces when they fled, but both survived things that should have been impossible. Jake felt a strange tingling in his chest. What does that mean? Elder Zeth Moran leaned forward. It means humans are not what they appear to be. And soon you will need that hidden strength. Hidden strength? Something is coming, Jake Morrison. Something that will threaten both our peoples. And when it arrives, the galaxy will learn what humans are really capable of. Jake left the meeting with more questions than answers. But that night, as he held Xylaveth close, he felt something changing inside him, like a door was opening in his mind. Whatever was coming, he would be ready for it. The alarm woke Jake from a deep sleep. Red lights flashed in their quarters on Haven's rest station. Xylaveth was already sitting up, her large dark eyes reflecting the warning lights. What is that sound? She asked. Jake was pulling on his clothes. Emergency alert. Something's wrong. They ran to the command center where Admiral Kate Sullivan stood at the main display. Her face was pale. Around her, officers from both human and Zalani forces worked together at control stations. What's happening? Jake asked. Kate turned to them. 3 hours ago, something attacked the mining colony at Kepler Station. 30,000 people lived there. Lived? Xylaveth asked. The colony is gone. Completely destroyed. War Prime Kelthvor, the Zalani military leader, stepped forward. He was a large alien with battle scars covering his arms. Our patrol ships found this. The main screen showed space where Kepler Station used to be. Instead of buildings and ships, there was only twisted metal and debris floating in the dark. What kind of weapon could do this? Jake asked. We don't know, Kate said. But 2 hours ago, they hit a Zalani outpost in the Vega system. Same result. Dr. Claire Norton, a human scientist with short blonde hair, pulled up another display. We've been studying the attack patterns. The energy signatures don't match any known technology. Jake studied the data. Something about the patterns looked familiar, but he couldn't place it. Have we tried to contact whoever did this? They're not responding to any communications, Kelthvor said. But our long-range sensors have detected a massive fleet moving toward the center of our territory. How massive? Zalaveth asked. Over 1,000 ships, each one larger than our biggest warships. The room went quiet. Even combined, the human and Zalani fleets only had about 800 ships total. Kate activated another display. We've managed to get some images. The screen showed dark ships that seemed to absorb light. They had strange curves and angles that hurt to look at for too long. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. I've seen something like this before, he said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. Where? Dr. Norton asked. Jake closed his eyes, trying to remember. Ancient ruins on Mars. There were carvings on the walls. Ships that looked like these. That's impossible, Kate said. Those ruins are over 50,000 years old. Maybe it's not impossible, Zalaveth said. Maybe whoever built those ships is back. Over the next 6 hours, more reports came in. The mysterious fleet was destroying everything in its path. They weren't trying to capture territory or resources. They were simply wiping out all life they found. A communication finally came through. The main screen flickered and a figure appeared. It looked almost human, but its skin was gray and its eyes were completely black. When it spoke, its voice sounded like many people talking at once. We are the Vorthon Collective. We have returned to reclaim what was taken from us. All organic life in this sector will be cleansed. Resistance is futile. The transmission ended. Vorthon, Jake whispered. I've heard that name before. Dr. Norton was already pulling up files. There are references to the Vorthon in some of the oldest human archaeological sites. They were described as ancient enemies who disappeared mysteriously. Well, they're back, Kelthvor said grimly, and our fleets can't stop them. Admiral Kate called for an emergency meeting. Representatives from both governments argued for hours about what to do. Some wanted to evacuate as many people as possible. Others wanted to make a last stand. We need more information, Jake said during a break in the discussions. Someone has to get close to their ships and figure out how they work. That's suicide, Ben Carter said. You saw what they did to Kepler Station. Not if we're smart about it. Zalaveth grabbed Jake's arm. You're thinking of volunteering, aren't you? Jake looked around the room at the worried faces. I'm the only one here who studied the ancient ruins. If there's a connection, I might be able to figure it out. Absolutely not, Kate said. You're too important to risk. I'm a diplomat who married an alien princess to stop a war. Now there's a bigger war coming and diplomacy won't stop it. That night, Jake couldn't sleep. He stood at the observation deck watching the stars. Zalaveth found him there. You're going anyway, aren't you? She said. I have to. Something about those ships, about the name Vorthon. It feels personal. Personal how? Jake touched the window. Like I've been preparing for this my whole life without knowing it. Zalaveth was quiet for a moment. My grandmother told me something before we left Nethys Prime. She said humans have a saying, still waters run deep. What does that mean? It means the quiet ones are often the most dangerous. The next morning, Jake presented his plan to the military leaders. He would take a small stealth ship and get close enough to scan one of the Vorthon vessels. The mission was dangerous, but it was their only chance to learn something useful. I'll go with him, Zalaveth announced. Absolutely not, Kelthvor said. You're the princess, and he's my husband. We go together or not at all. After more arguing, they agreed to let both of them go. Dr. Norton would monitor their mission from the command ship. They launched 6 hours later in a small human scout ship. Jake piloted while Zalaveth operated the sensors. The Vorthon fleet was 3 days away at maximum speed. Are you scared? Zalaveth asked as they flew through hyperspace. Terrified, Jake admitted, but also excited. Excited? Like I'm about to find out something important about myself. They dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Omega sector. The Vorthon fleet was spread across space like a dark cloud. Each ship was massive, easily 5 times larger than the biggest human or Zalani warships. Sensors are picking up energy readings unlike anything we've seen, Zalaveth reported. Jake studied the displays. But the patterns are familiar, like the carvings on Mars but more complex. They moved closer, staying hidden behind asteroid fields. Jake felt a strange sensation growing in his chest, like something was waking up inside him. Suddenly, alarms started blaring. A Vorthon ship had detected them and was moving to intercept. "We need to run," Xyloveth said. But Jake wasn't moving. He was staring at the approaching ship with an expression she'd never seen before. "Jake, I know this ship," he said quietly. "I don't know how, but I recognize it." The Vorthon ship fired. Energy beams that should have destroyed their small scout ship struck their shields. Jake felt the impact in his bones, but somehow, impossibly, their shields held. "That's not possible," Xyloveth said, checking the readings. "Those weapons should have vaporized us." Jake's hands moved across the controls with sudden confidence. Maybe we're harder to kill than they expected. He turned their ship toward the Vorthon vessel instead of away from it. "Trust me." "Jake, what are you doing?" "Something I should have done a long time ago." As they flew directly at the massive alien ship, Jake felt something fundamental change inside him. His vision became sharper. His reflexes became faster. For the first time in his life, he felt like he was becoming who he was always meant to be. "Whatever happens next," he told Xyloveth, "I want you to know I love you." "I love you too," she whispered. "But Jake, you're starting to scare me." "Good," Jake said with a smile that didn't look entirely human anymore. "That means this might actually work." Jake's small scout ship flew straight into the docking bay of the massive Vorthon vessel. He should have been crushed by the impact, but somehow he managed to land perfectly. Xyloveth stared at him in shock. "How did you do that?" she asked. Jake looked at his hands. They weren't shaking anymore. "I don't know. It felt natural." The ship's sensors showed that the Vorthon vessel had atmosphere, but it was poisonous to both humans and Zalani. Jake started putting on his environmental suit, but something made him stop. "I don't think I need this," he said. "Jake, the air will kill you." "Maybe it won't." He opened the ship's door without his helmet. Xyloveth screamed his name, but Jake was already breathing the alien air. It burned his lungs for a moment, then his body adapted. The burning sensation faded. "That's impossible," Xyloveth whispered over the radio. She was still in her suit, watching him through the ship's cameras. Jake felt different. Stronger. His senses were sharper than they had ever been. He could hear sounds from all over the massive ship. He could smell things that should have been impossible to detect. "I'm going to explore," he told her. "Stay with the ship." "I'm coming with you." "No. Something's happening to me, and I don't know if it's safe." Jake walked through the dark corridors of the Vorthon ship. The walls were covered in symbols that hurt to look at, but somehow he could read them. They told the story of an ancient civilization that had tried to create perfect warriors. The corridors led to a massive central chamber. In the center was a figure sitting on a throne made of black metal. It looked human, but its skin was gray and its eyes were completely dark. When it spoke, its voice filled Jake's mind. "Welcome home, child of the experiment." "What are you?" Jake asked. "I am the collective voice, and you are what we have been searching for." Images flooded Jake's mind. He saw Earth 50,000 years ago, Vorthon ships landing and taking primitive humans, experiments that changed their DNA. The creation of super soldiers who could survive anything. "You made us," Jake said. "We improved you. But your ancestors rebelled. They escaped back to their world and hid what they had become. We have been sleeping, waiting for them to evolve enough to be useful again." Jake felt anger building inside him. "You enslaved my people. We elevated them. And now we need them again. The galaxy has become infected with weak organic life. We will cleanse it and rebuild with our perfect warriors." "I won't help you destroy innocent people," the collective voice laughed. "You have no choice. The awakening has begun. Soon you will lose your human consciousness and become what you were meant to be." Jake felt something fighting in his mind. Part of him wanted to kneel before this creature. But a stronger part, the part that loved Xyloveth and cared about both their peoples, fought back. "You're wrong," Jake said. "Humans aren't just your experiments anymore. We've become something you didn't plan for. And what is that? Free." Jake launched himself at the collective voice. He moved faster than should have been possible, but the creature was ready for him. They fought across the chamber, and Jake realized he was stronger than any human had a right to be. He could lift metal beams that should have been too heavy. He could survive impacts that should have broken his bones. But the collective voice was stronger. "You cannot resist your programming," it said as it held Jake against the wall. "You were made to serve us." "Maybe," Jake gasped. "But I was also made by two people who loved each other, and I choose love over programming." Meanwhile, on the command ship, Xylaveth watched the battle through the ship's sensors. She could see Jake fighting something in the central chamber, but she couldn't see what. "Admiral Sullivan," she called over the radio. "Jake needs help." "We can't get close enough," Kate's voice came back. "That ship's weapons will destroy anything we send." Lieutenant Sam Torres, a young human soldier, was monitoring Jake's life signs. "Something's wrong with his readings. His heart rate is through the roof, but his other vitals are stronger than I've ever seen." Tech Sage Nirahelm, a Zalani engineer, studied the data. "This is not possible. Humans cannot survive this level of stress." "Maybe Jake isn't just human anymore," Xylaveth said quietly. Back on the Vorthon ship, Jake was losing the fight. The collective voice was forcing something into his mind, trying to overwrite his human thoughts with Vorthon programming. "Stop fighting," it said. "Accept what you are." Jake felt his human memories starting to fade. His love for Xylaveth, his friendship with Ben, his desire to protect innocent people, all of it was being pushed out by cold, mechanical thoughts about conquest and destruction. But then he heard Xylaveth's voice over his radio. "Jake, I know you can hear me. Remember what you told me on our wedding day. You said we could choose this together. I'm choosing to fight for you. Don't let them take you away from me." Her voice cut through the Vorthon programming like a knife. Jake remembered who he was. Not just a genetic experiment, but a man who had chosen love over duty, peace over war, hope over fear. "You're right," he told the collective voice. "I am what you made me, but I'm also what I chose to become." Jake grabbed the creature's arms and started to squeeze. His enhanced strength, combined with his human will, was more powerful than the Vorthon had expected. "Impossible," the collective voice said. "The programming cannot be overcome." "You forgot something when you designed us," Jake said. "Humans don't just survive. We adapt, we change. We become more than what we started as." He threw the collective voice across the chamber. It hit the wall and slumped to the floor, its dark eyes flickering. "How?" it whispered. "Because you gave us the strength of warriors, but we kept the hearts of humans." Jake ran to the ship's control center. The Vorthon systems were similar to the ancient technology he had studied, but more advanced. His enhanced mind could understand them now. He began entering commands. "What are you doing?" the dying collective voice asked. "Sending a message to your fleet, telling them that humans are not the weak species they expected, and giving our people a chance to fight back." Jake uploaded everything he had learned about Vorthon technology to the human and Zalani fleets. Their weaknesses, their ship designs, their tactics. Then he started the ship's self-destruct sequence. He ran back to his scout ship where Xylaveth was waiting. "We need to leave. Now." "What did you do?" "I gave our people a fighting chance." As they flew away from the Vorthon ship, it exploded behind them. The destruction sent a shockwave through the entire enemy fleet. Other Vorthon ships began to retreat, confused by the loss of their command vessel. "The fleet is pulling back," Admiral Sullivan reported over the radio. "How did you do it?" Jake looked at his hands. They still looked human, but he could feel the difference. The strength, the enhanced senses, the ability to understand alien technology. "I remembered who I am," he said, "and more importantly, who I choose to be." Xylaveth took his hand. "Are you still human?" Jake thought about it. "I'm something new, something that's part human, part whatever the Vorthon made us into, but the part that matters, the part that loves you, that's still completely human." "What happens now?" Jake watched the Vorthon fleet disappearing into hyperspace. "Now we figure out how to use what I've learned to protect both our peoples. And maybe we find other humans who are starting to awaken like I did. Are there others? There have to be. The Vorthon wouldn't have come back for just one person." As they flew back to Haven's rest station, Jake felt the galaxy changing around them. The war between humans and Zalani was over. But a new chapter was just beginning. One where humanity would have to decide what to do with the strength they had always carried inside them. And Jake would be there to help them make the right choice. 6 months after the battle with the Vorthon Collective, Jake stood in the rebuilt Haven's rest station. The place looked completely different now. Where before there had been separate human and Zalani sections, now the species worked together in mixed groups. Jake watched a team of engineers installing new communication systems. The group included humans, Zalani, and even a few reformed Vorthon units. The artificial beings had broken free from the collective after Jake's victory, and were now seeking peaceful integration. "It's amazing how much has changed," Xylaveth said, joining him at the observation window. "Almost everything," Jake agreed, "except us. She smiled and took his hand. Their marriage had started as a political arrangement, but it had become something real. Something neither of them had expected. President Harrison is here for the ceremony, Xylaveth told him. President Lynn Harrison had been elected on a platform of complete honesty about human capabilities. After Jake's awakening, it had become impossible to hide the truth anymore. Humans were descendants of an ancient genetic experiment, and some of them were beginning to show enhanced abilities. How many others have awakened so far? Jake asked. 43 that we know of. Dr. Norton thinks there could be thousands more who just haven't been in the right situation to trigger the change. Jake nodded. His transformation had happened under extreme stress during the fight with the Vorthon. Other humans were awakening in different ways. Some during accidents that should have killed them. Others during moments of great emotional intensity. They walked to the main assembly hall where representatives from all three species had gathered. High Counselor Vex Miran, Xylaveth's grandmother, sat at the head of the Zilani delegation. She had taken over leadership of her people after the old council stepped down in shame for hiding the truth about human capabilities. Integration Unit Zara, one of the reformed Vorthon, sat with the artificial intelligence delegation. She looked almost human now, having chosen to modify her appearance for easier interaction with organic beings. Are you ready for this? Ben Carter asked, sitting down next to Jake. His old friend had been appointed as the human liaison for the new Tri-Species Council. I think so, Jake said. It still feels strange being the center of all this attention. You saved 2 civilizations and prevented a galactic war. You've earned the attention. Admiral Kate Sullivan called the assembly to order. We're here today to formally establish the Tri-Species Alliance and to address the ongoing integration of awakened humans into our society. The discussions had been going on for months. What to do about humans who were developing superhuman abilities. How to handle the reformed Vorthon who wanted to live peacefully. How to prevent future conflicts between the species. The first issue, President Harrison said, is the Awakened Human Registry. We've identified several dozen individuals with enhanced capabilities, but we need guidelines for how they integrate into society. Jake stood up. If I may, I'd like to speak about this. The room went quiet. Everyone knew that Jake's opinion carried special weight. He was the first awakened human, the one who had defeated the collective voice and the bridge between all three species. I've spent the last 6 months learning to control my abilities, Jake said. The enhanced strength, the faster healing, the ability to understand alien technology. These things don't make me less human. They make me a different kind of human. He looked around the room. The Vorthon made a mistake 50,000 years ago. They thought they could create perfect soldiers by enhancing our bodies. But they forgot that the most important part of being human isn't our physical capabilities. It's our capacity for choice, for love, for growth. Integration Unit Zara spoke up. The collective believed that enhanced beings would naturally seek dominance over weaker life forms. But Jake Morrison proved this assumption false. How? Asked Tech Sage Nira Helm. By choosing to protect others instead of ruling them, Zara said. By using his enhanced abilities to save lives rather than take them. The collective could not understand this behavior. High Counselor Vex Myron stood slowly. She was very old, but her voice was still strong. I have something to confess to this assembly. The Zilani have known about awakened humans for 20 years. The room erupted in surprised voices. President Harrison raised her hand for quiet. Please explain, High Counselor. During the first contact incident, we scanned the human ship that escaped our attack. The readings showed impossible survival capabilities. We chose to classify this information and present humans as a weaker species to make ourselves feel superior. She looked directly at Jake. We were fools. We should have recognized the potential for alliance instead of seeking advantage. Why are you telling us this now? Admiral Sullivan asked. Because my granddaughter and her husband have shown us a better way. They chose truth over politics, cooperation over competition. They represent what all our species can become if we work together. Over the next several hours, the assembly worked out the details of the new alliance. Awakened humans would be given special training to control their abilities, but they would not be forced into military service or isolated from normal society. The reformed Vorthon would be welcomed as equals with rights and responsibilities like any other citizens. And all three species would share technology and knowledge freely. That evening, Jake and Xylaveth walked through the station's new gardens. Plants from all three worlds grew together in carefully designed spaces. Human roses bloomed next to Zilani crystal flowers and Vorthon bioluminescent vines. Do you think it will work? Xylaveth asked. This alliance? It has to, Jake said, because the alternative is too terrible to imagine. They stopped at a memorial wall where the names of everyone killed in the Vorthon attacks were displayed. Thousands of humans in Zilani who had died before Jake could stop the collective. I still have nightmares, Jake admitted, about what would have happened if I hadn't been able to break free from their programming. But you did break free, and that's what matters. Jake touched one of the names on the wall, a little girl from Kepler Station who had been only 6 years old. Sometimes I wonder if I'm still human enough to understand what we're fighting for. Xylaveth turned him to face her. Do you love me? More than anything. Do you care about protecting innocent people? Yes. Do you want to see children grow up safe and happy? Of course. Then you're human enough. The enhanced abilities don't change who you are in here. She touched his chest over his heart. A month later, Jake and Xylaveth departed Haven's Rest on their first official mission as co-chairs of the Tri-Species Council. They were heading to the outer rim of the galaxy where long-range sensors had detected signs of other ancient Vorthon experiments. Dr. Norton thinks there could be dozens of species out there with modified genetics, Xylaveth said as their ship entered hyperspace. Then we'll find them and give them the same choice the Vorthon never gave us, Jake said. Freedom to choose their own path. Ben Carter, who was part of their exploration team, looked up from his engineering station. You know, when you first told me you were marrying an alien princess, I thought you'd lost your mind. What do you think now? Jake asked. I think you found exactly what the galaxy needed. As their ship flew toward unknown space, Jake felt a familiar sensation in his chest, the same feeling he'd had during his awakening, like doors opening in his mind. But this time it wasn't just about his own transformation. It was about the potential for all the species they might find. Xylaveth, he said. Yes? When we find these other species, we're going to tell them something the Vorthon never understood. What's that? Jake smiled as he watched the stars stream past their window. That being strong doesn't mean you have to be alone. That the greatest power isn't the ability to destroy your enemies. It's the ability to turn them into friends. Xylaveth squeezed his hand. And if they don't believe us? Then we'll show them, the same way you and I showed each other. One choice at a time, one act of trust at a time, until they understand that cooperation is stronger than conquest. As their ship disappeared into the vast unknown of space, Jake thought about all the species that might be waiting out there. Some probably thought they were alone in the universe. Others might believe they were destined to rule over weaker beings. But Jake and Xylaveth would teach them a different lesson. That the strongest bonds weren't forged by genetic engineering or military conquest. They were built through understanding, compassion, and the simple decision to see others as equals rather than enemies. The human who had married an alien princess for peace had become something more than either species had imagined possible. Not just a bridge between worlds, but a teacher of a new way forward. A way where strength served love instead of fear, where differences became opportunities instead of obstacles. And in a galaxy full of ancient secrets and hidden powers, perhaps that was the most revolutionary force of all.